What exactly did he say?
He said Ford makes ugly little cars and we make them in an ugly factory. Executives are sons of whores. He called you fat, sir.
Go on.
He said you're not Henry Ford. You're Henry Ford II.
I want the best engineers, the best drivers. I don't care what it costs. We're gonna build a race car. And we're gonna bury that goddamn greasy wop 100 feet deep, and I will be there to watch it.
Terrifier 3 is the third installment in the low-budget slasher series featuring the now iconic Art the Clown. And you might be asking yourself, how the hell is this possible?
That's simply not possible.
Why isn't it possible?
It's just not.
Why not, you stupid bastard?
How did a gory indie horror film like Terrifier 3 end up outshining a juggernaut like Joker Folie Deux at the box office? I mean, we're talking about a movie with a fraction of the budget. Terrifier 3 cost about $2 million to make, whereas Joker 2 is sitting at well over $150 million. And yet, here we are, with Art the Clown stealing Joker's spotlight. So how did a low-budget slasher flick about an evil clown start pulling in bigger crowds than one of DC's crown jewels? Well, that's exactly what I'm going to be diving into today. How Terrifier 3 managed to outclass the Joker, and why audiences can't get enough of the brutal, no-holds-barred mayhem Art the Clown is bringing. So let's dive into this bloody showdown between Gotham's most infamous villain and cinema's latest horror icon. And hey, if any Hollywood execs are watching, and we know that you are, maybe it's time to take some notes because it looks like indie horror has once again outshined the big studio blockbusters.
This is the worst.
Terrifier 3's massive box office success over Joker Folie Deux boils down to one simple fact. It gives the fans exactly what they want, whereas Joker seems to be actively dodging that bullet. Look, at the end of the day, the horror genre, especially the indie slasher space, is built around a clear understanding of audience expectations. When fans line up for a Terrifier movie, they're there for one thing: brutal, over-the-top gore, and Art the Clown doing what Art the Clown does best. Writer and director Damien Leone knows this. He doesn't water down the horror or stray too far from the formula that worked for Terrifier 2.
And when I wrote this character, when I created him, I created the most vile, sadistic character that I could ever imagine. He doesn't have lines he won't cross.
Instead, he doubles down, delivering more grotesque kills, more unrelenting violence, and more terrifying moments that have become the franchise's signature. It's pure fan service, but in the best possible way, and the box office numbers reflect that. Now let's look at Joker Folie Deux. Here you have a sequel to one of the most critically acclaimed, fan-favorite films in recent history. I mean, I love the first Joker, it's a goddamn masterpiece, and Joaquin Phoenix's performance is so good that he can even hold a candle up to Heath Ledger's Joker. I mean, that's crazy.
Oscar goes to Joaquin Phoenix Joker.
A movie that took a gritty, psychological approach to the Joker's origin, grounded in the real world. So naturally, fans expected Joker 2 to continue that grim, character-driven journey. But instead, Todd Phillips and the studio decided to turn the sequel into a musical. Yeah, a musical.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
And sure, there are some unique ideas in there, and Lady Gaga is an A-lister, but that's not the point. The audience didn't sign up for that. What they wanted was more of the dark, gritty tone of the first film, a psychological deep dive into the madness of Arthur Fleck, not show tunes and dance numbers. So while Folie Deux might be creative and different, it fundamentally misunderstood its audience's expectations, and that disconnect is why Terrifier 3 is cleaning up at the box office. Terrifier 3 succeeds because it stays true to its core identity. It knows what the fans want, and it delivers in spades. Joker Folie Deux, on the other hand, is paying the price for straying too far from what worked in the original. When you ignore what your audience is craving, you can't be surprised when they head to something that does deliver. And in this case, that something is a murderous clown wielding a chainsaw instead of a musical number. One of the reasons Art the Clown works so well as a horror icon and why Terrifier 3 is blowing up is because he's consistent in the most terrifying way possible. Unlike many horror villains who constantly shift their methods and powers, making it hard to know what they're capable of, Art follows a predictable pattern, which somehow makes him even scarier. He's not a supernatural entity that gets bogged down in overcomplicated rules or lore. He's a slasher villain who uses whatever means necessary to kill. And in each Terrifier film, he always brings something completely unexpected into the mix, like using a gun. Think about it. In the world of horror, killers using guns is almost sacrilegious because firearms are too mundane for villains. But Art the Clown says to hell with those rules. He doesn't care about the horror villain playbook.
You know, pissed people off when he pulled out a gun. People saying, oh, that's the slasher code you just broke. You can't do that. It's like he doesn't live by any code. I mean,
he'll stab you, dismember you, or yes, even shoot you. And that consistency in his unpredictability is precisely why he stands out. Audiences know he'll use that gun if he has to. If you go back to all of his movies, he's used a gun, even if you go as far back as All Hallows Eve. It's not a one-off gimmick, it's part of who he is. And because of that, his presence becomes so much more intimidating. You'll never feel safe, even if you think you've figured him out. Let's go ahead and take a look at an excerpt from Filmento's new book, The Art of Film Perfection, which, by the way, if you haven't read this book, I highly recommend it. I'll link it in the description below. It is amazing. But in chapter 9, part 4, How to Lessen the Boogeyman, Philip Mentos writes, firstly, the ghost lady's abilities are inconsistent to a point of making no sense. Sometimes she can be deceived by hiding in a closet, while other times she's omniscient. Sometimes she can be stopped by closing a window, while other times she can teleport. Sometimes she can control the wind and be seen only through an umbrella, while other times it's not so. Her skills and methods seem to shift and change based on what the individual scares need them to be, which makes her less of a threat and more of a hollow construct of the writing. Basically, what he's saying in a nutshell is that the rules that a boogeyman is built on should be stuck to and made the most out of. Art doesn't just take a gun to conveniently kill someone in the third movie. He's done this throughout every single film. He sticks to his own rules. And I hate to keep comparing again to Joker 2 because that was such a bad movie, so I promise this will be the last time. But Arthur Fleck couldn't be more different from the ruthless anarchic villain that Joker's ending set him up to be. I mean, it's literally the best example of being inconsistent. Let's take a look at something that Screen Rant said.
Arthur Fleck was never the cold-hearted murderer that his Joker persona suggested to the public.
Another part says here,
instead of doubling down on Arthur Fleck's twisted desires and letting him escape scot-free, Joker, Folie _2 tears down his Joker identity.
I mean, goodness gracious, talk about extreme inconsistency or just straight up stupidity. So back to Art the Clown, by sticking to what makes him dangerous and keeping his methods grounded in brutal reality, Art remains an effective monster. There's no confusion about what he can or can't do. No sudden shift from psychological games to overpowered supernatural antics. He just kills, and that brutal simplicity makes him one of the most terrifying and consistent villains in modern horror, which is why Terrifier 3 works while so many other horror films like The Nun or La Llorona fumble by trying to do too much with too little. When you keep your villain grounded, consistent, and ruthlessly effective, you give fans exactly what they want, and that's how you deliver a horror hit. Another one of the key reasons Terrifier 2 and its sequel Terrifier 3 resonate so well with its audiences is the emotional depth brought by Sienna, who is not only one of the best final girls in years, but a character whose journey we've come to genuinely care about. Unlike other horror films where characters are mere empty shells for the monsters to kill,
I'm here to tell you right now, we don't care. Let me tell you something. We don't care.
Sienna's art gives us a reason to invest in the story beyond the gruesome kills. Her resilience, vulnerability, and the personal tragedies she's endured create a connection that elevates the stakes of her battle with Art the Clown. What makes Sienna stand out is that she's more than just a scream queen. She's a fighter with real emotional weight, and a real fighter, by the way.
Is it about Lauren that just cinched this character for you? Oh my god, just immediately it was just pure charisma that's undeniable. And then that she was also a martial artist, because it's a very physical role in Terrifier 2. There's a lot of fighting, Art the Clown, right?
We've watched her face loss, trauma, and inner demons, and by the time she confronts Art, is not just another slasher showdown. It's personal. We're not just scared for her because she's in danger, we're rooting for her because of what she's gone through. She's been pushed to the fucking brink, and her struggle isn't just physical, it's about reclaiming her own life, facing down the embodiment of her nightmare, and protecting those she loves. A+ writing. In a genre that often gives us disposable characters, Sienna is refreshing. Maybe there's a little bit of plot armor here, but still, every encounter feels like it could be her last. Unlike some other final girls who survive by luck or random acts of courage, Sienna's survival feels earned. She's trained for this fight, physically and emotionally, like when we see her dream sequences with her father and her father telling her how to beat Art the Clown with the sword and the armor that she has to wear, and when she goes head to head with Art, we believe in her. This is a testament to how Terrifier gives fans what they want. Consistent, brutal horror, but with characters like Sienna that make the terror matter. We're not just watching Art the Clown do his thing, which, yes, is horrifyingly effective with his relentless kills and even using a gun when necessary, but we're still watching Sienna face her demons both literally and figuratively. That emotional core is what separates Terrifier from other slashers. Art may be the face of the franchise, but Sienna is the heart, and that's why her journey has captivated fans, making her one of the best final girls in recent memory. Arthur Fleck, on the other hand, doesn't resonate as emotionally with audiences in the second film because the focus shifts dramatically from his grounded, personal struggle to something more abstract. A musical format that detracts from the psychological depth established in the first film. In Joker 2019, Arthur's descent into madness was raw, intimate, and deeply relatable as he grappled with societal rejection, mental illness, and a broken system. His story felt visceral because we were intimately tied to his pain and trauma, and the journey into his psyche was horrifyingly tragic, yet compelling. However, in the sequel, by turning the narrative into a musical, the emotional intensity that made Arthur's character so resonant is diluted. Musical sequences, while they are creatively bold, create a layer of stylization that kinda distances the audience from his personal pain. Rather than continuing the exploration of his fractured mind in a way that draws viewers into his torment, the film's theatrical elements make his inner world feel more performative than authentic. The stark, raw human vulnerability that defined Arthur in the first film is overshadowed by spectacle, and instead of feeling emotionally invested in his continued downward spiral, audiences are left disconnected. What a waste. Anyways, that's it for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please comment down below if you've seen Terrifier 3, and if you haven't and you're a fan of horror, I highly suggest you go watch it, but maybe don't bring your mama with you. But as always, hit that subscribe button, give this video a like, and by the way, pass the fucking rice!